Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. This is a guide for round 8 of the Manufacturer Series Exhibition Season 2. Let's get this started. Bring yourself to the right, and your first braking point is just after you pass the 100 meter mark. You're going to brake hard for a short while, slowly ease off of the brakes as you turn in, so turn in at the 50 meter board. Then look for the end of the white area on the right as you want to brake just before you pass it. Bring yourself all the way to the inside of the turn, onto the yellow stuff, get the car pointing where you want to go, and start to accelerate. Then ease off of the throttle for this turn. You just want the car to rotate just enough so you can get on the throttle as soon as you can. Take the S's flat out, bring yourself to the left, and your final braking point is right as you pass the 100 meter mark. Brake hard for a while, and you're going to turn in a little bit later, so just as the curb on the left ends. Go for a late apex, have the car rotate as fast as you can so you can get on the throttle as early as possible. That is pretty much it for the lap guide. Let's go ahead and take a look at the strategies. For this qualifying session, you're only going to have 5 minutes to try to get a good qualifying time, and before we go on, we're going to see that someone is using my own personal livery. I thought that was pretty funny, but anyways, you want to try to space yourself out because with 20 of you running around, or 16 for those doing the top 16, the space is going to be a bit of a valuable asset. And I say that because it is going to be pretty easy to get really close to the car in front of you, and you have to slow yourself down so you don't hit them, and that's going to end up ruining your own qualifying time. Luckily, because this track is so short, you will have a couple of chances to try to get that best time possible, but it's still something you want to be really careful about. Just try to space yourself out as much as you can. If you do end up on a slipstream, that will help a bit, especially as you go through the main straight or the back straight, but just be careful because it is pretty easy to get too close to the car in front of you, and once again, end up ruining your own qualifying time. So for example, right here, I am really close to the car in front of me. Luckily, this was at the very end of my qualifying lap, and that's not really going to end up hurting me that much. So once you do 1 to 2 qualifying laps, it is possible to do the jump out and jump back in strategy. So this is where you press options, exit, and in the lobbies you press enter course, or during the actual FIA session itself, you press the qualifying button. And this will save you from having to do an end lap and do the whole pit stop sequence. So you spawn back with a new set of racing soft tires, and all you have to do now is just do an out lap and then do your next 1 to 2 qualifying laps. And you pretty much just want to repeat this until the time runs out. For this race, we are doing 26 laps at Lago Maggiore Center with Group 3 cars, and things are going to get pretty crowded in here. Both fuel and tires will be an issue. Fuel is at times 6, so you will be forced to refuel at some point, and the tire wear is at times 12, so you're going to end up making quite a few pit stops to get a new set of tires. All 3 tire compounds are available to use, but only the racing hard tires are required to be used. So make sure you use the racing hard tires for at least 1 lap so you don't get a 1-minute penalty after the race ends. And it's going to be pretty difficult to do much fuel saving as most of this track has you accelerating really fast, and pretty much the best place to do any sort of fuel saving is going to be through these first couple of turns. You won't need that much power here, so you can get away with better short shifting, and if you're constantly under someone's slipstream, that will help you do a little bit more fuel saving, and you can get away with a bit more short shifting. Just try not to do so much short shifting to the point where you lose your slipstream. You want to try to stay within their slipstream, keep up with their pace, and you can take advantage of staying within the pace and fuel saving at the same time. So you're going to need to consider how your car is when it comes to its fuel economy, how it is when it comes to fuel saving, and how you and your car are when it comes to the tire wear. So let's say that you and your car are not that good when it comes to the tire wear. You might want to go with a 3-stop where you pit every 8 to 9 laps for a new set of soft tires, and then you only end up doing 1 to 2 laps on the racing hard tires. If you and your car are really good when it comes to tire saving, then it is possible to go with a 2-stop where you do 11 to 12 laps on the racing soft tires for each stint, which leaves around 3 laps for the racing hard tires. And don't forget that you'll also need to consider how the traffic is around you, so hopefully you don't end up pitting out into traffic, or throughout the race you don't end up battling with others too much to the point where you slow yourself down. So in this case, we're taking a look at the 3 stop, and we're doing 8 laps on the racing soft tires, another 8 laps on the soft tires, 1 lap on the racing hard tires, and then 9 laps on the racing soft tires. So we're going to wait until we're about to run out of fuel before we go ahead and refuel. So for this first pit stop, we're just doing a tire change and we're going to keep moving forward. The pit loss is going to be around 4.5 to 5 seconds. So that is something that you'll need to think about when it's almost time to pit. And I say that because if a car is within 5 to 6 seconds behind you, then you do risk pitting out into them, unless if they pit with you as well. And in this case, we're actually going to go for a variation of the 3 stop, where I do the racing hard tires in the middle of the stint, not at the end. So we're not going to refuel just yet, as we do have 1 lap of fuel left. So we're just going to go ahead and change on over to the racing hard tires, get that out of the way, and then we're going to refuel at the end of this lap. And do be careful about pitting out here, because you do face the risk of pitting out into traffic, and these cars who haven't pitted yet, they might be braking for a turn and you might be turning in. So you just want to make sure that you don't go across the track and end up risking an incident. So this is our final pit stop coming up right now. We're switching over from the racing hard tires to the racing soft tires, and we're going to be on the soft tires for 9 laps. And we are going to refuel quite a bit, and we do need to overfuel quite a bit because this center configuration of Lago Maggiore is a little notorious for being a bit incorrect when it comes to refueling. So when we did our refueling, it said that we had 9.3 laps of fuel left, but as we come out of the pit stop, we actually have 8.2 laps of fuel left, and it's going to adjust itself along the way, but we're going to end up having just barely enough fuel to be able to finish the race. So you want to overfuel quite a bit so you don't end up running out of fuel 1 lap early and making yourself look silly. And with these 8 to 9 lap stints on the soft tires, you will start to feel the tire wear effect kick in, but you'll be pitting just in time, just before the tire wear gets really bad to the point where you're losing quite a bit of time. And this 3-stop strategy is going to be good for those who are not that good when it comes to tire saving for one reason or another. I know there are some cars that are really bad when it comes to the tires, so this 3-stop strategy could be the safest and best option for those people. I know for me, I'm not that good when it comes to tire saving, so if I were to choose between the 2 or 3-stop, I would be going for the 3-stop. Just make sure that you are able to do a bit of fuel saving, stay under the slipstream if possible, and make sure you overfuel a bit so you don't end up running out of fuel a lap early. And one last thing, make sure you do your best to not end up in too many fights or pitting out into traffic or any of that stuff, because the more that you get slowed down, the more it's going to hurt you, especially when you have to make the extra pit stop. And with this 3-stop, I ended up getting a 19 minutes and 20 second total time, but one thing that you do have to consider is that this was done without getting interrupted by basically anyone. So once you factor in the traffic and all that stuff, then the 3-stop and the 2-stop is going to end up being a little bit closer. With the 2-stop, which is what you're seeing right now, I ended up getting in 1924, but once again, this was done without the traffic, so things could be a bit closer than what you may think. And in this case, we're doing 11 laps on the racing soft tires, 3 laps on the racing hard tires, and then we're going to finish the race with 12 laps on the racing soft tires. So this is going to be better off for those who are really good on the tires. Obviously, I'm not that good in this case, but this is one option for those who are really good with tire saving. So we're not going to refuel just yet. We're just going to go ahead and get a tire change, and then we're going to refuel once we are finishing up this racing hard stint. And we're only doing this racing hard stint for 3 laps, so once we are at the end of lap 14, we're going to go ahead and pit on in. And I know someone's going to ask, hey, why aren't you using the racing medium tires? One, it's not required, and two, they don't last that much longer than the racing soft tires, and their grip is just not that good. It's closer to that of the racing hard tires, so there's pretty much no benefit to using the racing medium tires, so we're just going to ignore them. So we're still on the 2-stop, and we're putting on in for the last time, switching over to the racing soft tires. And once again, we're going to refuel quite a bit past the diamond, as we want to make sure that we don't have to do any mega fuel saving and hopefully not end up running out of fuel once the race ends. And this 2-stop strategy is all about trying to nurse your racing soft tires, just trying to do your best to make them last the 11 to 12 laps. And it's not going to be an easy thing to do, but it is still possible to do, especially if you are on a car that is really good on the tire wear. And one thing to consider is that because you are doing one less pit stop, you could get an advantage over those doing the 3-stop if those on the 3-stop are really battling it out with each other. But once again, for the last time, this strategy is going to be good for those who are good with tire wear management. If you and your car are not good when it comes to that, then you're probably not going to want to run the strategy. You're probably going to be better off doing the 3-stop. And for whichever strategy you are running, if you are starting in the back or towards the back, start on the racing hard tires, get that tire requirement out of the way. That way you can spend the rest of the race on the racing soft tires. And finally, let's show places to overtake and the penalty serving zone. And you really want to get a good run onto this straight and the back straight, which I'll show in a bit, as it's going to be pretty difficult to get a successful overtake happening here on this center configuration. So if you're going for overtake, you need to make it stick, otherwise you're going to end up in a long battle and end up losing a lot of time. And the penalty serving zone is right here in the middle of turn 3. This is probably one of the worst places to serve a penalty. I don't know why PD put it there, but if you have to serve a penalty, make sure you're not turning the car in all the way, because you're going to slow down and that could potentially make the car unstable. Finally, this back straight that we just went through is pretty much the last place to try to get an overtake done. Once again, you need to get a really good run to make the overtake stick. And that is pretty much it for this guide. Once again, this is going to come down to a 2 or a 3-stop with the racing soft and hard tires only. Racing hard tires are required for this race. Don't forget to refuel and overfuel quite a bit. And the strategy is going to mostly come down to how good you are when it comes to tire saving. If you're not good with tire saving, go with the 3-stop. If you're good with tire saving, you have the 2 and the 3-stop open for you. And before I go, I know some people are asking me about which manufacturer I'm going to be with for this next season. I'm probably still going to be with Dodge, but I'm just going to wait until we get the details about all the track combinations and tire fuel multipliers and all that stuff before I make a decision. Especially if this next season is going to be the official season, then I'm going to want to take a little bit more time to decide what I'm going to go with. But anyways, that is pretty much it from me. I'm going to sign off now. So this is Mr. CA wishing you a good race, and I'll see you in the next video.